Welcome to a class today that's all about spring season, balancing some of the elements that are here and can be in excess this time of year, water and earth. Sometimes we feel that in the chest, and some of the dullness and the cloudiness, heaviness in the mind and in the body, some mucus, just like some unpleasant side effects that constitute kapha energy, which is made up of those two elements. And so on our mat today, there's some things that we can do to balance both in movement and in rest, and especially in the how of how we move. We'll start with pranayama, and sitting well looks different for everybody. You could sit with the hips on the heels. If that's not accessible, you can bring a block, a cushion, a couch cushion, anything that you have that'll raise your hips right underneath the hips with legs crossed or legs out, maybe something under the knees, right? So just find something that's comfortable. Even a chair will work. And find a comfortable place to land for just a couple of moments. And the hands can rest face up on the thighs. The eyes either fall to a low gaze in your space or let the eyes close completely. Whatever allows you to sort of walk back into your inside world, whether it's the start of your day or at the end of a crazy day. And find a little bit of that attention, shine it inside. And in there you'll find the breath. And so can you watch it just for a moment, watching the breath do what it does every moment of the day? Perhaps you can ask that breath to move just a little bit lower so that you feel it more so in your abdomen. Take a breath in, maybe feel the way that there's space here between the spine and the belly as you inhale. And then as you exhale, the belly button draws closer to the spine. Take a breath in, let the air flow as deep in the lungs as you can. Doesn't have to be a big breath, just needs to be low and slow. And then exhale. And take a couple more intentional breaths just like that. Stay with the wave of your breath. And when you feel like that attention has walked back inside just a little bit more with the help of a slower and lower breath, I'll invite you to either stay with this breath or try on a pranayama called Ujjayi breath, an ocean sounding breath, which just involves a little constriction at the back of the throat. And that's easily accomplished by thinking about the way that you fog up a mirror with your breath. And so it's the audible exhale sound. And if you're, if this is new to you, if it's a new technique, funnel it out the mouth first, and just to get the action here that's happening at the throat. Take a breath in through the nose and exhale like you're fogging up a mirror. Take one more just like that. You feel that little friction here happening at the throat. Take a breath in, and the next time you exhale, this time exhale but seal the lips together. Same action, maybe an audible breath, still the action of trying to fog what's in front of you. So hopefully you're catching on to how that feels. It's a little more warming. And so stay with this intentional friction here that we're creating in the throat. Breathing in with that same constriction, like you're fogging up something behind you. And exhale like you're fogging up something in front of you. And once you feel like you have that action down, you can let go of this imagery of fogging. And can you stay with the feeling of warmth instead? Warmth spreading into the ears, down the neck, and into the upper chest. As you take a breath in, can you feel that expansion in the upper back? Maybe some warmth follows there too. And exhale, feel the warmth of the breath out the nose. One more time, just like this. Take one more Ujjayi breath. And exhale, release. Release the technique and come back to a regular breath. And moving with this same kind of quality of introspective attention, you'll come to lay on your side. Lay on your left side, the left hip comes to the ground, and lay the whole left side of the body on the ground, resting on the bottom arm. You can even make a little pillow for yourself here as you rest. The knees are at 90-90. 90 degrees at the hips, 90 degrees at the knees. Take that top arm, bend the elbow, and bring the palm to the back of the head. Take a breath. And we'll begin some somatic thoracic rotations with a real slow upturn to the ceiling, like your heart has a light. Can you shine it away from the sidewall and up to the sky? Take a breath. And then exhale as you start to shine the light of the heart back towards the sidewall. The elbow points directly up to the ceiling again. And that's one round of somatic rotation. Inhale. Take a breath in. Let your head fall back into your hand as you look up towards the sky. Take a breath. Feel the openness of the chest. And then exhale just as slow as you come back and rest your left ear on your left arm. Let go, relax, and then take one more. Counting to the count of 7 as you open into your fullest range of rotation. And then exhale, come on back for the count of 7. And once you're back in your starting position, let the top arm come to the ground. Push yourself up and just hang out here on the side of the hip. We'll take the right arm up and around into arm circles. I'm starting to feel more of this openness in the chest and the torso. I'm bringing some of this into the arm and the armpit. And if you'd like to bring your gaze along for the ride too, you might just follow. Let your gaze follow the pace and the location of your hand. And changing directions if you haven't yet. And sometimes I alternate between and take a couple one way, a couple the other way. And then return this hand back to the ground. We'll flip which hip we're leaning on. And so come to get ready to lay on the right side. Moving anything off to the side that you need. Come on down to the ground, lay on that bottom arm, knees at 90-90. And then bring the top arm to the back of the head. Palm rests on the back of the head. Take a breath in as your elbow reaches up towards the sky. And then same deal here. We slowly start to move the chest so that it faces the ceiling, rotating the thoracic spine. Taking a breath, moving slow. And then return back to your starting position. Elbow to sky. Pause here with the right ear on the right arm. And then begin again. Open the chest. And when you reach your full range of motion, bring everything back. Chest to the side wall, elbow to the sky. Take one more breath. And this time, count the breath if you haven't yet. 7 counts to open the chest as much as it can open. And exhale, close the chest. Staying with a slower movement and leaning into some of the energy of spring before we counter. And then take the top arm, push yourself up, hang out here on the side of your hip, and take your left arm in a circle around. Breathing as you move. You can either let the pace of your arm dictate the breath or let the breath dictate the pace of the arm, right? It's a two-way street. Bring the gaze along for the ride if that felt great for the neck on the other side. And if this side feels a little different, a little stiffer, the feeling here at the chest and the armpit is a little tighter, then do it a little different. Make the circles a little smaller. And then when you're complete, both hands on the ground, come onto hands and knees. And then tuck the toes under. We won't spend a lot of time here just yet. Walk either the hands to the feet or the feet to the hands, and take a nice deep bend in the knees here. The goal is not to straighten the legs right off the bat. And blocks here can be helpful too as you lift into a flat spine and then exhale round the spine. Holding on to shins or forearms. And then for a minute, just like if you had a tail, like you could wag it to each side, or letting the torso flex to the side. And then come on back to shins or blocks. Take a breath in and walk all the way up the legs. And then from wherever you're standing, I'll take just a little step forward. And with the leg that's here at the back, you'll start to circle. And in a way where you're getting into the tops of the feet and the tops of the toes. And so instead of keeping the ball of the foot on the ground, let your toenails dig into the ground and circle this way. You can move 8 times in each direction. This little routine of movement here that we're walking into is called Dasha Chalana, or the 8 churnings. And so it's traditional here to move 8 ways, or take 8 movements, and each movement is 8 churnings in one direction. And then step back, and then take the other foot forward, let the back circle. Over the tops of the toes, feeling into the front of the ankle, a wider step forward, and a wider space between the feet will lend itself to a greater stretch. And when you're complete here, bring both feet back together. And you'll take a little wider space between the feet, maybe hip width distance or just a little bit more. And then with your nose, you'll trace a circle in front of you, like you could draw it right on a wall in front of you. Right, so instead of rolling the neck around, which is often the response when we feel tension in the neck, we move it in this way. It's a little safer for the cervical spine. The circle here can be big. And the idea is to move slow. If you're getting dizzy, close your eyes, and that might help a little bit more. Otherwise, keep the eyes open for balance. Change direction if you haven't yet. Now when you're all set here, bring the feet together so that they touch. The calves touch, the inner edge of the feet touch. And then you'll bend the knees. Take the palms to just above the knee and let the fingertips drape over the knees, right? So you're sitting back just a bit here and you'll circle. Let the knees move in this way. It's not the knees circling, it's the action of the hips here that makes it look like the knees and the ankles can circle. So again, you can take it in one direction, move it to the other, or stick with 8 churnings on each side. And when you're all set here, hands to hips, feet a little wider. Take the circles, let it move up the body to the hips. We are all shaped so differently in our hip sockets that a different stance might feel different in your hips and might feel more comfortable at one length over another. So take a couple steps out, see how it feels, bring it back in if it's too much. Move in both directions as always. And then when you're all set, bring the feet in under the hips, take the hands, interlace them together like in a prayer shape. And then glue the inside of the wrists together and then let the wrists roll. And forwards and backwards, kind of see the motion here. And then interlace the fingers, but this time with the fingers inside the palms, yep. And take that same circling, but this time be a little more careful. Sometimes there's more sensation this way, on the outer side of the hands. But great for our wrists here that tend to live more sagittally with computers and desks and writing and grasping and holding a steering wheel. And then let's bring a little rotation to the shoulders. Pick up the shoulders to the ears, set them down behind you, bring them forward, and take this 8 times in both directions. And the aim here is like not to find necessarily the full range of motion, so that there's like a lot of cracking and popping, and certainly we don't look for discomfort here by any means, but it can be small. And usually here there's an opportunity to feel some heat happening in the neck as we lubricate the synovial joint that is the shoulder. And you can even start to move a little quicker here, right? So part of the how of moving in spring to help counter this excess heaviness and wateriness is moving quicker and lighter and brighter. And so we'll start to bring that into our motions here as we start to make our way towards the middle of our class. And then come on down to hands and knees. Palms on the ground, hips right above the knees. Bring your right hand right underneath your nose so it's more central. And then take your left arm, reach it forward, up and around. Circling again, but in a bigger way, in a way that asks just a little bit more of the body. The strength of the supporting arm. And a greater rotation here, again, of the spine as we open and lift up. Let your gaze stay lifted here. Keep your gaze high and bright. And we'll bring that to the other side. Replace your left hand or your right hand with your left. Right underneath the nose, walk the right hand forward. And then inhale, let the circling begin here on the other side. And then replace the left hand with the right again. So we're coming back almost like we did on the first side, but this time the back of the hand comes towards the head. The left hand on the back of the head as you rotate the chest just a little bit to the side wall and then rotate it back down to the floor. Just a half circle up, but as you'll probably notice here and you might feel in your body, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of strength for the supporting arm. And it asks a lot of the upper chest. So the goal is not to stress and strain, just open as much as is available that you find here in your range. And then let the top arm come back to the ground. Left hand underneath the nose, right hand to the back of the head, take a breath. And if you have a tendency like I do to hyperextend in the elbows, make sure that that joint is not locked. Keep a little bend in the elbow, back of the hand to the head. Begin to open to the right. And close the chest. And take just a couple here. If this is tough, challenge yourself for 2 if you can. Take 3 if you're able. And then bring that top arm back to the ground. For a moment, just sit back. And if you'd like to take a child's pose here, you certainly can as well. Bring the hips back towards the heels, the hands on the ground in front of you, ears between the elbows. And come back to your Ujjayi breath. If that felt nice and good and warming, come back to that breath here as you fold into child's. To release out of the shape, go ahead and look up between your hands. And then shift your shoulders back over the hands, come on to table. Step one leg back to the ball of the foot, step the other leg straight onto the ball of that foot, and suddenly you've arrived in plank. Press down through the arms. If you notice here that there's a tendency for the belly and the hands to drop, pretend you're pushing into the ground and lifting your body away. That's the action we want here of the serratus anterior. Take a breath. Make sure to let the breath go. Take Another couple rounds of breath as you hold plank here, long from the top of your head, down your spine, right to the tailbone, and down to the heels. And then bend the knees. You might even walk the feet in just a little bit more. Stay on the balls of the feet. As you start to bring your chest towards your thighs, the hips rise up to the sky, downward facing dog. The ears are right in between here, the elbows. The gaze is closer to the feet. And feel the strength of your body here supporting you in our first inversion of class. And then straighten the legs, round the spine, kind of like the arched back of a cat as you shift your weight forward, shoulders over wrists, and then bend into knees, send your hips to the sky, downward facing dog. We'll take a little flow, a rounding of the spine all the way to plank, but where one movement ends, the other one begins. Downward facing dog, into plank, shift the hips back, lift them towards the sky, press through the hands, then round the spine as you shift your weight forward. Shift the hips back. And this can even be done with knees on the ground, right? So shifting back, rounding through the spine, into table, pressing the hips back towards the heels, rounding like a wave forward. And take this one more time. And then come on back to hands and knees. If you need to stretch out the wrists a little bit, we're spending a lot of time here. Go ahead and give yourself a little circle. You might even reach the hands out and just flex and extend the wrists. And then bring your hands behind you. We'll take a little countering here before we move back into the table. Take the forearms to your low back. And puff out the chest just for a moment. Take a breath in. You might even lift the gaze. Feel more space here at the front of the neck. And then draw your ribs back in so that they're not jutting out anymore. And take a breath like this. Open chest. Space for the breath to move and flow. The element of space, whether in shape or in breath or in countless other ways, is the element that helps to counter earth and water, creating some levity and openness. And then come on back to table. We're moving into a barrel roll. If you know what that is, go right ahead and move into it. Otherwise, I'll explain. So it's almost like you're lifting into cat, but just on one side of your body. So like the right shoulder blade lifts, you press down into the right hand, and then move that lift all the way evenly across the back. So now you're in a full cat, rounded spine, chin into the chest. And then lift so that it's just on the left side, lifting on the left, and then bring the left side of the chest down to the floor. Move it across, spread it evenly. And then move so that the right side of the chest is reaching towards the ground. And then lift on right. Also the visual here maybe of like a pipe running down underneath you, and the way that you move around it, circling around it without touching that pole that's running underneath you, is a way to imagine this too. And if all else fails, if my words here didn't do the movement justice, just take a couple shapes here that maybe don't have a name. They're organic, they're yours. It's just a way to move into the spine. It doesn't have to be what I'm doing, doesn't have to look like this. And the hips might get involved too. If they feel inspired to move, go ahead and move the hips along with the chest. And all the while, bring a breath in It can be bigger, it can be deeper, it can be lower, it can be faster. Play with something that creates a little bit of a different sensation in your body, something that might counter what you'd feel as heaviness in breath or heaviness in movement. And then we'll start to simmer out of this movement with a look around towards the back foot, like you had a tail and you're a dog chasing the tail. This lateral flexion of the spine here opens into the sideways, lifts the ribs away from the hips, and creates a lot of space for the diaphragm to move. One more time, take a peek over to each side. And then rest for a second. Back on heels, take a breath. Feel perhaps some of what has been stirred in your body and your mind with the effects of the practice so far. Noticing difference between right and left side. Difference between mind and body. If there is one, right? We often assert this difference in yoga between body, mind as if they're separate, but maybe they're not. Maybe they're a little bit more integrated than we think they are. And then come on back to hands and knees one more time, and then I promise we'll stand up. Bring the left hand underneath the nose again, so it's more central. The right arm will float up to the sky, or maybe resting on the hip or forearm on low back. And then take the hand, thread the needle between the wrist and the knees as you set the arm on the ground. Hips are still lifted away from the heels. And then inhale, take the arm or the elbow back up to the sky. Tuck it underneath you. And one more time to lift. And this time as we thread the needle, so to speak, we'll let the arm rest on the ground and see if you can bring the shoulder to the ground as well. And moving into a slightly deeper twist here and holding. The supporting arm might come now to fingertips with the elbows lifted, just creating a little bit more space for you to rotate and look up underneath the armpit. So it's a big twist. It's a sizable one. So stay with it as much as you can. Come out if it's uncomfortable. But if it feels like a welcome stretch, stay here. And then bring your palm back to the ground as you push yourself up. We'll bring this to the other side. Left hand under nose, take a breath. As the right arm sweeps up to the sky on a hip or on low back. And feel the brightness of the heart shining towards the side wall, and then tuck that arm underneath between knees and wrists. Set it down for just a moment. And then inhale. Take a few rotations here of thread the needle. One more time to lift, and this time as you thread the needle, hold, stay here in a static shape. You can let the left hand come to fingertips, elbow to the sky, just to make a little bit more space for that twist to happen here. Inverted twist. Palm is facing up, gaze is underneath the armpit up to the sky. And so sometimes the breath becomes less available here in a twist. It does. It creates a little bit of a different shape in the thoracic cavity. But can you still breathe here? Can you still breathe? Find the availability in your breath. Maybe you feel it more in your chest. Maybe you feel like there's more room in the belly. Everyone feels it a little bit different in a twist. And feel the side of the shoulder on the ground. And then let the top arm come down to a flat hand. And slowly bring yourself back up to table. Tuck your toes under, and this time, walk your feet up to your hands. Certainly coming on to blocks is an option here. And then walk your hands all the way back up to standing. Give a second for blood flow to adjust. Spend a little time upside down. A slow breath. Good. And then here, we'll take a little bend in the knees like we did before. The hands can be on the thighs for just a moment. I'll show you a couple different views. So here's the view from the front. This is a chair flow, chair kriya, where the hands can rest on the hips to start, or inhale the hands out to the side, up and overhead, and you'll see up the overhead I have hands together in Anjali Mudra. The ears are between the elbows, take a breath in, and the hips are sitting back, just like you're sitting back in an imaginary chair. And then from this place, with your hand almost as a sword, you're gonna cut on a diagonal line over to the side, bend the elbows, and set the left elbow on the outside or the top of the left thigh. Take a breath. And then inhale, straighten your arms, cut back up to the sky with straight arms, hands in prayer. And then exhale, I misspoke on the other side. I'll bring the outside of your left elbow and upper arm to the outside of your right thigh. So it's opposite tricep to opposite thigh. Hands in prayer here, elbow lifted, top elbow lifted. And then inhale, extend the arms. Sweep them back up overhead, and just for a minute come back to standing. It's a lot for the legs. As we think about how Ayurveda and yoga come together, the quads start to be the symbol of the lungs, but for the lower body. So think of your quads here as the lungs of your legs, so to speak. Sit the hips back. Keep the hands here on hips if you've opted for that, or reach them up overhead. And begin to slice to the side. Same thing. Just another round of chair kriya. Elbow lifted, hands pressed together, revolve the spine, inhale, all the way back up overhead. Take a breath on your exhale, begin to hinge your hips, come into your revolved chair. Parvrita Utkatasana. And then extend the arms, slice on back up. One more time to each side, right? This is a challenging practice to stay with. But imagine this cutting up here. We're cutting through the mud with heat and warmth and mobility and lightness. So stay light in a shape that demands a lot of power. Arms overhead, straighten the legs, bring the hands back beside you. Take a pause, maybe a hand to the heart, a hand to the belly. Feel the pace of your breath, the way that it's picked up, the warmth radiating off of your skin. And feel the mobility here of your joints as you stand. Fluidity in the knees and the shoulders, side of the neck, the way that the spine moves and rotates. Just a little bit more fluidity. A little bit more lubrication. And then drop the hands and bring them either to your side or on the hips. We'll take a step back. So you'll shift the weight into, let's say with your right foot, shift the weight into your right foot. Pick your left knee up off the ground. Tuck it under you, bring that back leg to touch the ground, stay on the ball of the foot. So you're in a lunge here in warrior, in yoga we call it warrior one. Lift the back heel away from the ground. Arms either stay on hips or come up to the side. Bend front knee, look down the front thigh. Ensure that the knees are tracking towards the middle toes. Find that muscular engagement here of the leg that's safe. Take a breath. And if you notice here that the ribs are jutting forward, take them back in. Elbows are still on either side of the ears. And then from here, I can let the arms fall, but this time they're gonna fall in opposite directions, and find a scissor here. So the arms will swing, and it doesn't have to be like this slow and controlled movement. You can just swing here. Finding rotation again. Can you tell that that's the theme of this kapha balancing class? There's a lot of movement for the thoracic heavy. Swing the arms. You might even bring them up overhead and then let the swing continue, kind of like windmill arms. And then just let them scissor back down, slowly coming out of the movement. And then shift your weight into your front leg, step both legs forward. Take a pause. Maybe a couple of breaths. Shift your weight into your left foot, pick up your right, step it back. Keep the heel of the back foot lifted nice and tall. Hands wherever you would like them here. Maybe you want some steadiness, and maybe you want to experience the same little twist as the arms scissor here in warrior one. And hands can go all the way up. You can bring that windmill all the way around. And find a quickness here. If you've opted for some dynamicism here in warrior one, can you move them in a way that's effervescent almost, just kind of the word of a kapha balancing time. Bubbly, it's light, it's buoyant, it's airy. And then let some of this wind down on back. You'll take one block, so I'll bring both of mine with me. You'll take a couple blocks here. Step the right leg back, the left leg comes forward again, and now stamp the back heel down so that your hips are open to the sides. Take a breath. Good. And hang out here in this wide shape for a minute. We're starting to release some of that heat that we generated on purpose. And then take a block in your right hand. So if your left leg is forward, your block's gonna come into your left hand. The front leg will start to bend. Place that knee over the ankle. And then set the block down on the inside edge of the foot so that the front edge of the block is at the back edge of the heel. Bend into the front knee. You might even find that the legs want to spread a little bit more here. And then as you press into the block, lift your arm towards the sky. It's a supported Trikonasana. Take a breath. And then take a bend again into this front knee if you've opted to straighten for triangle pose. And step your back leg in, bring that top arm to the hip. Take a hold of your block. And this is where it gets a little tricky, right? So we're moving into a challenging half moon. You can stay here in triangle or opt for this. As you start to shift your weight into your left leg, your block will dangle forward. It'll come out in the direction of the pinky toe, right? So instead of right in front, it's a little bit off to the side and back. And then your back leg starts to float off the ground and let it levitate. Stand tall and strong into the left lifted leg. The hips are open to the side. The back leg is lifted and reach out the heel for half moon. And then you slowly start to set the back leg down, bend into the front knee, bring both legs back, pick up your block, come on back to a wide stance. And we'll bring this to the other side. Point the right toes off to the right side wall, back toes are angled in, and then the block just kind of dangles here and then reaches the ground, back edge of the heel, front edge of the block. Take a breath. Hand comes to the inside of this block, either bent knee or straight leg. It'll bring you into a slightly different feeling or shape in the hips. And take what you need here. One's more of a side angle and one's more triangle. Take a breath in. It might even be interesting here to look up the lifted arm if your arm is lifted. And then bring that gaze back to the ground. The top arm comes to the hip for a little support and stability. You'll start to press into your legs, lift up, take your block up with you. Bend into your right knee as you start to shift forward. Bring your back leg up just a bit. Front arm dangles with the block off to the side of the pinky toe, right? So it's like 6 inches in front of the foot, off to the side of the pinky toe. Place it on the ground. You might even notice your back leg already started to lift. Let that lift continue. Your standing leg is externally rotated. Lift your back leg straight. Reach out through the heel. Top arm is on hip. Bottom hand presses into the block. Best to keep the gaze here on the ground for strength and support and steadiness here and a more challenging balance. Standing half moon. Ardha Chandrasana. And then start to lower that back leg gently, slowly. Place it on the ground, pick up your block, and come on back to a wide leg stance. Great. Blocks off to the side. This time it might be helpful here to have a bolster within reach. Or some type of cushion, maybe a big pillow. And come on down to kneeling. Press the tops of the feet into the ground. We're getting ready for camel pose, Ustrasana, but in a little bit more of a supported way. I think that still will support our back bend, but maybe not the most giant back bend in the world. So the bolster will be here at the back of the thighs. Bring it nice and long behind you. Rest it there. And then we'll start to bring attention to alignment. So maybe even with a hand on the heart and a hand on the belly, we can find this preparation here as we start to lean back. And it's almost as if you're one long board from the front of your chest down your thighs, one piece. You'll start to lean and then lean forward. Lean back, lean forward. One long line, one long piece. Right, so instead of this, one long. Yeah, good. Do this a couple of times. Feel the engagement of the quads. That's the whole idea here in preparation. And find that muscular engagement. And then bring the hands onto the hips. As we lean back this time, the hands will come to the bolster or to heels if you've opted not to use the bolster. So it'll look a little bit like this if you want to watch first and then try it out. You'll start to lean back. You'll notice that your gaze starts to lift as well. Let that happen along with it. And then bring your hands back to the bolster and then let the chest kind of float up to the sky. You're pressing down through your arms, and the chest reaches up, the gaze looks up into full camel, Ustrasana. Taking a moment here, letting the effects of Udana Vayu, of that upward moving energy, start to happen and create good synergistic effects here in the body. And to release out of it, you'll start to bring your gaze back to the side wall instead of the ceiling, and then lift yourself back to kneeling. You could take that a couple more times. Come in and out of it. You don't have to hold it quite as long. And then when you feel complete, we'll move on to the ground. We'll find a little bit of a back bend here as we move on to the ground again. And that can be accomplished in a couple of different ways. So for a more intense option, you can take a block on the tallest setting, and then a block on the medium setting instead of the small setting. And then you'll bring your hips to the ground. The blocks are behind you. They'll be supporting the back of the head and the spine. And you'll have to sort of find the right positioning of the blocks for the proportions of your body. You'll start to set things down. The whole idea here is that you're setting the spine on the block just like right about mid-back all the way to upper back. You don't want this resting on your low back, and then the back of the head will come to the back of the block, and you'll rest here in what's called supported fish pose. And if you're thinking, well, I think that's just too intense for me altogether today, here's a slightly different option. You'll move the blocks off to the side and instead take a blanket. Start with a rectangle shape. And then what you'll do, and if you can sort of see here, it's almost like you're going to fold that blanket into its rectangle shape, but you're not coming all the way over. And we're gonna accordion fold and bring it back a little bit, but not all the way, bring it forward. And sort of to create this shape here of like a raised ridge, or steps all the way up to this raised ridge. You can kind of see here that it's folded in that way. And then you'll set it behind you, and you'll set the whole spine on that raised ridge. And you might be surprised here, if this is something you've never taken, go ahead and set the spine down. Nice and slow with control. You can use your forearms to get down on this shape. And set the spine down, make sure there's space for the head to land. And you'll feel this. You'll almost feel like the ribs are pulling apart here at the chest bone, at the sternum. And that's the sensation we're looking for. The shoulder blades are drawing together. There's openness. There's a little bit of a tiny extension back bend of the spine here. And then the arms can come rest out to the side. The legs can extend. And you'll settle into this shape, this supported version of fish pose. And let the bones settle in this shape. And start to feel some of the activity of the practice winding down. You start to feel the support of the muscles go offline as they rest and sink into the earth qualities that are the ground underneath you, that are the steady supports in your life that allow you to rest while feeling supported. And practicing in a way that balances kapha or combination of earth and water elements is not all about activity. And sometimes we lean into the rest. We start slow, we end slow. We start on the ground, we end on the ground. Letting the earth be a little bit of a teacher, reminding us that rest is best. Let the breath start to slow. Ujjayi is valid here, but slow and with a real slight constriction instead of this big, audible breath. Let the back teeth part slightly. Notice the face. In your scan here of the body and the head, if you found any tension, can you ask yourself to melt out of that unnecessary stress? Sometimes we hold between the eyes, often at the jaw as well. Staying here in a short rest, a shorter Shavasana this time of year, so that we can go out into the world and move with a brightness, a lightness. In the next few moments, just rest. There's nothing else to do. There's not a place you need to be. Finish your practice with an opportunity to integrate just by being here. Nothing to think. The integration that happens just by saying yes and sinking into rest. A moment of gratitude for engaging in this practice, for helping yourself, for taking time to do this necessary self-care, and recognizing the way that both earth and water contribute to nourishment in your body. It is the lining of your lungs. It is the lining of your stomach. It nourishes the white matter of the brain, lubricates the joints. When you're ready to breathe a slightly bigger breath, invite that in. And let this more alert breath and this effervescent breath just awaken you a little more from your state of rest. Rolling off to one side, either side. Pausing here for a moment and then continuing back to seated with the support of your hands, all the way back to maybe even the shape that you started in, like a full circle experience. And hand to the heart, hand to the belly. One big intentional breath to seal the practice. Thank you for practicing with me. Come on back to this practice anytime you need it. It's always here, and happy spring.